and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. Today I am with Yamaha's 1982 XJ1100 Maxim. I have just installed progressive suspension springs in the front of this bike, and I'm going to be doing a test drive in a couple of minutes here to see how those function. The kit number on these springs is 11-1110, and it is designed for this kit will actually fit several different models of motorcycle, but it's designed and will fit this one specifically. So I have installed those. The installation really was painless and easy, and so I am very excited to see how this affects the handling of the bike. The reason that I went with the progressive suspension, even with I had previously added a spacer to the top of the fork springs on the stock springs, and I still was having far too much dive when I would get on the brakes. So when I got on the throttle, the bike would kind of rock back. When I got on the brakes, it would rock forward. And what happens is, if you're on the brakes and you kind of run out of suspension travel, and then if you hit a bump, it's very prone to locking the front wheel. I have actually wrecked a vintage motorcycle under those conditions. I was coming up to a stop sign and hit the brakes hard. The front end of the bike really compressed the springs to the point where there was no more suspension travel, and then I hit a truck ripple and it locked up my front wheel. With the addition of these progressive suspension springs, that is no longer going to be an issue. After the test drive, I may need to go back in and do some final tuning on the spacer length that is on top of each spring and each fork leg. But right now it's just a matter of gearing up and checking it out, seeing how things are riding and driving. All right, enough talk. Let's go find out how these springs work. Let's ride.
I am currently test driving Yamaha's 1982 XJ1100 Maxim, and I'm doing that after installing new progressive front fork springs yesterday. And the reason I did that was because the sock springs on this bike were just kind of sacked out over time, and when I would get on the brakes, the bike would just dive kind of dangerously. It would use up all the suspension travel, and therefore, if I'm doing a combination of hitting the brakes and then I hit a bump, there's no more suspension travel, and a bike like that is very prone to locking up the front wheel, which is a very dangerous situation. So I've just upgraded the fork springs, and already, man, what a difference. And another thing that kind of highlighted the fact that this bike dives so much was I recently put Spiegler front brake lines on it, and so it now really stops with authority, but I couldn't even utilize the brakes fully because every time I would hit the brakes, the front end would just dive it would crash dive like a submarine. So yeah, what a difference. The ride, I've got progressive shocks and springs in the back, and now the progressive springs up front, new fork oil, and it just transformed the handling on this bike. It went from being a wallowy pig to being really nicely controlled in a suspension. I can tell that the suspension is firmer than it was with the stock settings, but that's really, this thing was so mushy that being firmer is a great thing. And I just have much more control in the corners. I'm not worried about it bottoming out and scraping if I'm going around a corner. That just really brings a safety level on this bike up into the modern era. And I can really enjoy this bike for what it is, which is just a fantastic sport touring machine. I'm accelerating or getting on the brakes, this bike doesn't do a whole lot of transition front to back. It just maintains its composure very well. And previously on the stock suspension, when I got on the gas, the nose would come way up, and when I got on the brakes, it would dive way down. And that's just, those tendencies are gone. But with the progressive units front and back, this thing just handles very nicely. It's kind of German sports car like. It's firm but well controlled, and it's not punishing. And whereas before I could not go quickly, safely on this bike when I first bought it, just due to the condition of the brakes and the suspension, with the upgrades that I've performed, I've rebuilt the brakes and upgraded the lines. It really does go nicely, and I can hustle it safely and really without stressing the bike out. This is just a really nice place to enjoy these beautiful Pennsylvania back roads. You can see there's very little dive under the braking and deceleration, and this thing just acquits itself so nicely in the corners. Very, very nice.
All right, what a difference. That has really transformed the handling of this bike. This bike just, it handles so much nicer now, and when I'm, on the brakes and on the throttle, it has really minimized the amount of front to back travel in the suspension. I feel like I have much better control under braking, and now I can really exploit the fact that it has upgraded brakes with the Spiegler brake lines. So I'm very, very happy with that. I'm going to be releasing a review video of this bike here shortly and some comparison videos. So stay tuned if you like the XJ1100. I hope you found this video entertaining and informative. And until next time, enjoy the ride.